Did you have to switch recordings, or you're just good to go?
I haven't, I paused it, so at least it'll be a break.
We're ready? Okay, we are ready to get going again. If everyone else is ready, we'll just get, okay.
We're back up.
Do you need a moment, Nicole? I mean, I can wait a moment. Okay, good evening. It's 7:33 PM on Monday, July 28th, 2025. I'd like to call to order the Village Brookfield Committee of the Whole meeting. Mike, can we have a roll call for the committee, please?
Trustee Ketchmark? Here. Trustee Whitehead?
Here.
Trustee Hendricks? Trustee Naramatu?
Here.
Trustee Gilhooly?
Here.
Trustee Kaluzny? Not present. President Garvey?
Here. Thank you. We have one item to discuss tonight. Staff's asking that we award a contract to Wight and Company for the Creekside Park OSLAD grant project and waive the bidding process. We have a very detailed memo, but we do have our Parks and Recreation Director, Luke Gunderson, here to, Luke, is it, you want to make some additional presentation or explain the basis? I mean, obviously, the board has your memo, and it's very helpful, but would you like to just briefly explain what we're looking for here?
Most of my stuff that I'd be presenting would be similar to what is in that memo. So if you have any further questions on top of the memo, I'd be more than happy to answer. And I can also give some background information on the project if the board would like. This was awarded to us. We went to for the OSLAD grant in 2024. It was awarded to us. So now we have the letter for the Creekside Park project, Phase 1, including a playground designed for ages 2 to 12, a picnic shelter, restroom building, game tables, and bago boards with native plants and removal of invasive species along the river's edge.
Okay. And Wight and Company assisted in the preparation of the OSLAD grant where we were successful, so they're very familiar with the project, and that's kind of the basis of asking to waive bids. And we believe because their pricing is within the, ID&R, who awards the grant, has a maximum of 15.5% of them. They're all 10%, so they're well within the range of what Department of Natural Resources goes for in design fees.
Correct.
And we just feel with their working relationship and their familiarity with the project, it would save time and money.
Correct.
Okay.
They were also used for the Ellert Park.
That's correct. They're very familiar with our parks.
Is this for the construction documents, the design, as well as the construction management?
Correct. Yes.
So a couple comments on that. I'm fine with bringing them on board and waiving the bidding process. But looking back over our last several projects that have included any sort of landscaping and designs, if you look at Ellert Park, if you look at Creekside, if you look at the Memorial Circle, we've had issues with every single one of them. And there's a couple different parts to it, and this has come up before, and I've asked this question, and you just asked the question about the construction management. I don't know that that's been included. We certainly ran into that issue at the fountain. We need a good design of the project. We need to implement that design. And a lot of times that implementation seems to be falling to staff. And that hasn't worked out. I mean, at the Circle, we had our village engineer trying to help with the management of that project. We had a terrible contractor on 2 of these projects, which didn't help. But I'd urge any of staff or my fellow board members, take a look at the canoe launch. Okay? I went by the canoe launch. I was stunned at how that canoe launch looks. And that goes back to the very beginning when things are done. I don't think these projects will look any better than the first day. You look at the Kessman Garden, you still, plants dead all over the place in there. So we need someone to manage these projects. The Creekside, we need someone to manage the installation of that. We want this to be successful, and then it's up to us to maintain it. I don't think we've had that on either of those on some of these projects. We're certainly not maintaining it. Take a look at Creekside. Yeah, you will be stunned or at the canoe launch. You will be stunned if you look at that. The Kessman Garden, we just had a grand opening there. Take a look at all the dead plants out there. Take a look at the circle. We've changed out the dead plants at the circle a couple times. Half the plants are gone at the circle. You know, we're a couple years into that project. We want these projects to succeed. You know, staff spends a tremendous amount of time, getting the grants for these. The board has discussion on these, and then a year or two later, they look like heck. So that's why, to Trustee Hendrick's point, that construction management be part of it, because we haven't had that. I remember with the circle, we were all arguing over who was the one managing that project. And then is it DPW? Is it Parks? Is it, the manager's office? It seems like it should have been the architect who we hired to maintain, to manage that. But we found out it wasn't.
And I Trustee Ketchmark, you're right, because I do remember these conversations as these things were going on, and I remember at Candy Cane Park also or the construction process, while they were in the design, but not necessarily the construction management when the project at Candy Cane was going slow and things like this. So, I mean, tonight, this is up for a committee discussion. I mean, at some point, we're going to have to award it to, will there be language in there that they are to manage the actual construction of the project, and what exactly management of the project means, to make sure that when the project's handed over to us, that it then becomes our responsibility to maintain it. But I do agree with Trustee Ketchmark. I think some of the projects that have been handed over to us maybe have not been what we wanted because the management of the project didn't go well. So is there going to be a contract that we actually have to approve that would have the language that describes the specific construction management duties?
There's going to be a contract that's going to come before the board, and what they put in their scope of services is going to be between the village and Wight to negotiate.
And if can I add on to that real quick? Which is, to Trustee Ketchmark's point too, is that the plans for that need to account for sustainability. So in terms of the maintenance of it, we need like drought-resistant plants. You got to put the right stuff in there, or we also need to think about the ongoing maintenance plans and what we're capable of doing and what we can afford to do, because as an example, the 8 Corners, I know for a fact, a lot of those plants that were put in there are not full sun plants necessarily. They're not going to thrive. So it just seemed like kind of a bad decision for some of those, right? That we're then going to have to replace. So we need someone, a company, if we're going to put them in charge of all those decisions for us, because I know we can't be in all those little details, but that's something I would like to see in that type of agreement, that we are planning for something that is going to be sustainable and low maintenance if possible.
And we need to be realistic in what we can maintain.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
not our own backyard where you come home from work and you want to spend a half hour pulling weeds or something. Like, it's not that. It's scary when you hear these native plantings, in some ways, because I think at times municipalities look at that as, oh, we don't have to do anything. Whatever grows. Look at the canoe launch. There are weeds 6 feet tall throughout that. You can't see any of the plants we put in there. It looks really bad. And that, again, it goes from the beginning to the design and then the maintenance afterward. So we just have to be realistic in what we put in. It's probably better to be simpler than not, but we have to, maintain it. Anything we do is going to have some maintenance to it.
Yes, I completely agree. In my experience, the number one reason that these projects, these designs don't, well, not these, but designs don't succeed is that they're not maintained. So we may want to take a look at our overall maintenance strategies for these spaces, for the garden spaces, for the native spaces. Just look at that as a whole.
I think that's a good point, on not just this project, but all the other projects. But I still go back to Trustee Ketchmark's original point that the proposed contract for us, we have to be clear who's managing it, because once whatever's installed, I agree, Trustee Hendricks, we do have to come up with a better management plan to do it. And that starts with planting things that we know we can manage down the road. But I guess what you're hearing, Tim, and between Tim, Stevie, and Luke sitting there, I know that they kind of understand where we're coming from, and that maybe before the contract from Wight comes before the board, see if in past contracts the scope of services did not cover this or was not clear enough as to what we want, going forward. Like, if there's problems with the project as it's going on, or we're getting close to the ribbon cutting and something isn't done, and we hear that it's not their responsibility, I guess that's not what we want to, we want to know who's responsible for what. So maybe there could be clearer language about what their scope of services is. And if they're not managing it, then we need to know that someone else actually has to manage. It's not just designing it, turning it over to a contractor and walking away. When we show up for the first day and the ribbon cutting and the project's turned over us, we want it to look the way we planned on it looking. So my understanding is that's part of the management, the construction management. So between the three of you, I know you're all very experienced at this, you can maybe look at the scope of services and see if additional services are needed, or more clarity in the language, or what the board's expectations are. And if there's some reason that Wight and Company's not up to that or can't do that, then we'll have to revisit that. And then as we, I think you're also hearing that we need to just maybe overall, and there's been changes in public works and transitions and everything else, but, we do need to come up with a plan to maintain this stuff going forward to avoid some of these things. Fair enough? So is this something that we could put up for the August 25th meeting, and by then staff can review the scope of services, and if there's issues or things, we can, deal with them before then? Okay? All right. Anything else on this issue? All right. Thank you, Luke. One more time, I will open up the meeting to public comment. Is there anyone on this side? Is any public comment? Anyone on this side? Yes, Mrs. Dufek?
3825 Arden Avenue. My question is, are they still considering putting a bridge across the creek from Creekside to South Kiwanis Park? Or is that in phase 2 of, they're gonna apply for another grant?
That is not part of this current phase. The grant that we awarded does not include a bridge. That would be a future step or a future action of a board or a future board.
Okay, are you going to apply for another grant for the bridge?
If another grant comes up, the board would have to approve applying for it. We would have public discussions about it. There's no grant to apply for. Whenever they come up, we discuss them and decide if it's something we want to do and if we have the match and it's a desirable project. So I can't say we are or we're not going to at this point, because we don't know what the status will be when some of these grant programs are in question in general, when they're going to, if and they're going to continue and what's going to continue, so.
I took a survey. I'm an older person in the neighborhood, which on my block, it's half and half. I've lived in my house for 70 years. I've accepted them cleaning it out. It doesn't look that bad the way I thought it would. And the thing is, I took a survey of young people in the neighborhood, new residents, and the older, and most of us are against the creek bridge. Now, are you gonna consider people in that area if you apply for a grant for the bridge?
This board always considers everyone's opinion, the residents directly affected and the village as a whole. So I think you know the answer. We always consider everyone's opinion. That's why we get paid the big bucks, to weigh everyone's opinion and make the decisions that we can going forward. So promise you, if there's future meetings, we will let you know if this topic comes up. If I see you not here one night, I'll send someone to come pick you up if we're talking about it.
I have all the addresses and the names of the people, maybe 25 people in the area, that I walked and talked to them. And this was some time ago when they were discussing the bridge coming over. It's, the majority are not in favor, and that's even including the new residents.
Okay, we'll see when the topic comes up again. We'll consider their opinion along with everyone else's opinion, but it's not anything that's tonight or anytime soon when the next cycle comes out, but, all right, thank you. Okay, any other comment on this side? Okay, hearing no further public comment at this point, I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Section 2C5 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss purchase or lease of real property for the village's use.
So moved.
Second?
The motion was made by trustee Naramatsu, second by trustee Gilhuli. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ketchmark.
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead.
Aye.
Trustee Hendricks.
Aye.
Trustee Naramatsu.
Aye.
Trustee Gilhuli.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're adjourned into executive session at 7:47. We're going to do the executive session in this boardroom, so anyone not participating in the executive session, I'd ask you to vacate the boardroom. Thank you.